I heard once someone say that your primary responsibility with the gospel is to share it. It was almost 20 years ago. As a student, I was in a missions conference, and the speaker was in Romans 10, and he looked at the passage, how will they have faith in whom they haven't believed, and how will they believe in whom they haven't heard, and how will they hear unless someone goes and preaches, and how they preach unless they are sent. And then Paul in Romans 10 cites Isaiah 52 and says how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. And the speaker all those years ago was suggesting that this was such a compelling call, of course, to share the gospel, and our primary responsibility, as he said, it's kind of his takeaway drive home point. Our primary responsibility with the gospel is to share it. And there's a sense by which, absolutely, that we are called, Jesus said, as you are going, make disciples. And we are to share our faith. We are to be, Jesus' witnesses, right, all over the earth. But I've come to suggest that in regards to our personal faith as followers of Jesus, as well as those who are engaged in ministry, sharing our faith with others, whether that's in a youth context, a missions context, or so on, that your primary responsibility, my primary responsibility with the gospel, isn't first to share it. Now, I know that sounds strange, but I instead suggest that your primary responsibility and my primary responsibility with the gospel, first of all, is to believe it. If you consider, it's from your personal experience in Jesus that you have a testimony, that you have a story to share of your encounter with this resurrected Jesus. And again, your primary responsibility is to, first for yourself, as a follower of Jesus, or even as someone who's desiring to share their faith, you're engaged in ministry, you're mentoring young people, your primary responsibility is to believe it, and to be practicing in that belief, to be abiding and feeding that belief, lest you yourself begin to run dry and get disconnected and prioritize more your teaching and your leading and your working with small groups over your own personal devotional time. It may seem like a sort of counterintuitive or controversial idea, and I don't mean to be that way, but I would say it's of utmost importance that you as an individual stay fresh with God in your faith, and your primary responsibility with the gospel is to believe it for yourself and to feed that, to thrive in that, to stay in God's word. And then from the overflowing of your space with Jesus and your relationship with Jesus, that's where the ministry comes, and that's where the sharing of your faith comes. Looking at those two passages, and after this video, I really encourage you to shut it off, go read Isaiah 52, go read Romans 10, and I think you'll find actually that although Paul is talking about sharing faith, and Paul's talking about being a witness, the original source material, if you look at Isaiah 52, is prophetic, and it's pointing towards the Messiah. If you consider, God is more interested in you than he is in your ministry. Like, God didn't look at you and go, wow, I really need this guy on my team or this gal on my team because, they're such an eloquent speaker, and think of all the things that they can do for me, so I really got to get them just so I can get to their abilities, just so I can get to their platform, just so I can get to their influence. No. Like, God's building his kingdom. He doesn't want you for your ministry. He wants you. And through that, you co-labor with him in his ministry, in his building of his kingdom. See, it's not about us, and I suspect that for me, when I really had struggled with that for many years of thinking I have to perform, I have to be successful in ministry, I have to have things look a certain way, and if it wasn't, then I would internalize that and feel like I was failing. Realizing that, like, oh, I don't want God to be displeased with me because I don't have a thriving church group or small group or whatever. And the beauty of this is that the beautiful feet of those who bring good news primarily, firstly, isn't us, but rather the beautiful feet who brings good news is that of Jesus, who brings good news of the kingdom, who brings good news of a reconciled relationship with God through his finished work. And as people, as followers of Jesus, or those engaged in ministry, that's really of utmost importance for us to remember. Your primary responsibility with the gospel is to believe it.